I'm Sarah, the Product Marketing Manager at XTM. In this session, we'll be covering the 13.10 and 25.2 releases. So yes, just a quick reminder, we've updated our release naming convention. This change helps make versioning clearer and puts the focus on the value rather than the number of each release. So the next version will be 25.3 and onwards. So just a quick update on that. So joining me shortly is Andreas, our senior sales engineer, who'll take you through the details. But first, let's do a little bit of housekeeping. This session is being recorded. Your microphones and cameras will remain off during the session. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to drop them in the chat box at any time, which is on the top right corner of the screen. If there's a particular feature you'd like to explore further with our sales or customer success team, just let us know in the chat. Towards the end of the session, we'll also launch a quick poll where you can express interest in follow-ups or deeper dives into anything we've shown. We'll address your questions in a Q&A in the end as well. So without further ado, over to Andreas.
Thanks for the intro, Sarah. And yeah, thanks for helping me out here today on the webinar. We have a pretty packed schedule, so there's a lot to cover. Also, for time reasons, I may not demo each feature. It just wouldn't be an hour. So for some of the new features, I've sort of opted either for a slide or a quick demo video. But yes, please do let the questions keep coming in, and I'll pause towards the end and cover the questions. If you happen to drop off and you want to get in touch and you didn't get your question answered because you had to leave, feel free to drop us an email and we can follow up. All the questions are being logged, so I get those anyway. All right, with that said, let's take a look at the slides. So we're making this a feature spotlight presentation, so I'm going to try to throw a spotlight onto the most important features of the latest releases. And there are a lot of productivity gains in the last couple of releases. And we're going to start off with some of the features that have gone live in recent months. We've done updates to the new workflow tab in the projects. I'm going to talk about custom preview, which is a new way of doing preview outside of XTM, which is pretty advanced. Several API updates. I assume from looking at the list of attendees here that most of you are using the API. We've gone a lot further now in our confidential customers beta program, and that is really becoming more and more relevant to a large scope of our customer base. So I'm going to take you through some, I'm going to show you that also live. Language Guard is now also in closed beta, and we're getting closer and closer to general availability for Language Guard. So I'll show you that as well. I can demo it to you. We have several updates in terms of connectors, so I'm going to cover that towards the end of this presentation, and some other minor UX improvements that I could also show you in the slides. Now, our workflow tab, this is an open beta. You can switch between beta and standard view anytime you like. You can switch back and forth for whatever need that you have. But we've done a lot of improvements now in the beta program that actually takes the new workflow screen or the new workflow layout far beyond what you can do in if you want to call it that, the old view. Especially in terms of batch management within large projects. So suppose you have a large project with like hundreds or thousands of files in a single project, that can be cumbersome for project managers, right? Searching through the list of files, etc. And now we have a search box, for instance, we have multi-select and these kind of things in the beta program for you to be more efficient as project managers. And this is available on all plans. So team, business, enterprise, you can use this. Let's have a look at what this can look like in XTM. I can show you examples later. This is basically the search box that came out earlier this year, which allows you to search through all your job files within the project. You can also take the search and filter it further. As you can see, it resets nicely. also working in tandem with the pill filters that you see at the top left. And if you want to find, for instance, in property files, anything that contains the word assistance and filter for that, it's very easy to multi-select and do assignments in the pop-up. So you could assign parts of your project very easily by virtue of filtering for file names or parts of the file names. So we hope that this is going to help you a lot as project managers. Moving on, custom preview. So this is a totally new feature that came out in 25.2. And it gives you the keys to the castle to create your own previews. So the rendering or the conversion to HTML that we use in visual mode or in the in-context view is done outside of XTM. This has pros and cons, you could say. Like, so XTM Cloud is no longer responsible for creating the preview. You are. So if you have a service that can create HTML previews, we can incorporate those into the project. So it is really cool because you can specify an endpoint where that service runs on whatever instance that you control. And you can then supply XTM with the static previews that we need for source and target in order to get previews inside XTM. This is also available on all plans. And yes, the REST API is also a prerequisite here, and of course some dev work for you to incorporate the service that renders the HTML. You see a screenshot over here where we have static HTML previews for source and target in the visual mode window of XTM. Here's a video where I'm demoing this also. So first we have an ASCII doc file, which is a file format that is currently not supported in the standard visual mode. And we have inline tags, obviously, that can encode formatting and things like that. And now we open custom preview. So you see that the request goes out to the outside service to fetch source and target HTML files. Those are then rendered and presented to the linguist in the same way that we do it for visual mode. But these are static HTMLs, so they are not bidirectional in the sense that they're clickable, at least not at this stage. You can also, though, move it to a secondary monitor, as you see here. Same way you can with standard visual mode. You can also pop it back into place by closing that, and you can regenerate it multiple times. So if you want to regenerate the custom preview, you can simply close it and open it, and it will then go and fetch fresh previews from the outside service. And it scales nicely, as you know, from visual mode as well. And another highlight of this feature is the fact that you're sort of independent to create your own previews for any format. We saw it here for ASCII doc, but theoretically you could do it for any format, even though it is not supported by XTM Cloud as a preview format, if you know what I mean. So here ASCII doc was my sample, but you could do it for any format. So if you wanted to do a preview for Excel files and you have an outside service that could render Excel as HTML, feel free to implement that. If you're interested in this, don't hesitate to reach out either to me directly. You can also reach out to your CS person. Next, we have some API updates, which I think are pretty cool also. We expanded on our create project method quite a bit. So now the create project method also supports custom fields. Previously, custom fields would be done in a second iteration of API calls. So you'd first create the project, wait for the callback and say, okay, project finished and our analysis finished, and then you would update the project with the custom fields that you need. Now we've incorporated those inside the create project method, which is really cool because now this streamlines your integration work. You can reduce the amount of API traffic and you're more efficient. So it's a win-win for everyone, let's say. We've introduced a completely new method for deleting a terminology in the REST API. Previously, we had that in the SOAP API, but now it's available in REST as well. You can also modify callback URLs on any project now. And this is great. So suppose you have a project that has a callback set from the very beginning to send a callback to a specific endpoint, you can now update the project and say, I need a callback to a different system, or I need a callback, you need to delete a callback or something like that from a project. Also things you can do now in the project API. So this is, of course, greatly beneficial for anyone using a REST API. The beta programs have advanced, as you saw on my agenda slide. The confidential customer beta is now much further. We have introduced these restrictions on LSPs as well. So not only on XTM standard users, but also on LSP connections. You can now specify exactly which confidential customers an LSP should have access to, if any. And also we've harmonized certain reports and things like that where confidential customer data should not be included. And this is a feature available on all plans, and I'll be happy to show you that also live later on. Our beta program for COST 2.0 has also advanced significantly, and you can run COSTs 1.0 and 2.0 side by side. Obviously, they sort of run parallel tracks. So you could do it even on your production server or your production account without jeopardizing any of your other cost calculations. And we've harmonized or improved the UX significantly, especially in terms of error messages and what you should actually do when you get an error message. Those messages can, for instance, deal with things like a user with a rate card has been deactivated, or a rate card is missing for something like that. And that is where the UX has improved significantly. And we've also introduced more methods for how the cost calculations can be done. So not only on metrics, but also on statistics. Good. Language card. This is exciting. This is an AI feature. And AI features by default, the new ones that we're developing, they are on the enterprise level. So this is a feature that is not available on team or business. It is available as an add-on if you want to look at the advanced AI pack. If you're on business, for instance, and you're interested in the AI features, that would be the add-on pack. So the language card is great at spotting gender bias or discriminatory language, and I'll be happy to show you that later in the demos. Of course, for marketing content and high quality content, the language card will give you a lot of benefits, because it will spot those things that a user might oversee, right? Or if you're running more automated projects, language card can also be brought in to report automatically on those and give you the findings where discriminatory language is being used. Yeah, we have a little demo video of this also. Here we see English to English. So we're doing it in the pre-processing step. As you can see, we're getting inappropriate language checks, and we're also getting suggestions now. So we're using GPT-4o Mini for this feature, and it is actually very good in terms of also providing suggestions on how to improve the language. Connectors. We have a whole set of new connectors, so happy to take you through those. We have launched an XTM Cloud Tridion connector using our middleware framework. And Tridion, for instance, in structured authoring, supports DITA as well, so we can also reap the benefits of XTM's DITA capabilities here, which is really exciting for a lot of our customer base. This is an enterprise level connector, and is hot off the press, so to speak. We also quite recently released is our Shopify connector, also on the enterprise level. And this is, of course, highly relevant for e-commerce organizations, or for organizations that run a web shop on their website, which can very well be hosted by Shopify, and allows you to seamlessly round-trip content also using our middleware framework. Last but not least, we have a Google Drive integration now as well. This one also uses our middleware solution and is available on all plans. It's super easy to set up and of course allows you to sync files from your G Drive into XTM and back for any format that Google supports. So you could run all your Office files there. If you're running GDoc and G Sheets, etc., and slides like you're looking at now, those will be converted to Office formats because of the nature of Google's workspace. But yes, I can show you that also in a quick video here and talk you through it. So this is the middleware solution where the project is defined, how the pulls and pushes should be defined. And if I open up the project details here, we see that I'm syncing very often. You wouldn't probably in normal circumstances have to sync that often. So it runs at a certain interval, it runs every 3 minutes and checks for new files in a specific location. You can also run this manually if you prefer at the push of a button. But you can configure this in many different ways if you want to have it at different intervals, days of the week, etc., days of the month. So that's the trigger. Every 3 minute pull G Drive for new files. This is the location we're looking at, and we're syncing English source files into German and French in XTM Cloud. As you can see here from my XTM setup, I'm mapping this to a specific customer, and I'm using a specific project template for automation purposes. Now, this is my drive where I have an in folder where I'm going to drop a couple of files. So those get updated in G Drive here. As soon as the polling mechanism runs, it's going to detect that new files have appeared. So I can look at the activity here and we see that it's currently in progress. So it's just now monitoring the drive and pulling those into the middleware, pushing them on to XTM Cloud in a specific customer, and immediately checking for translation status. So we now see, there we are, the project has arrived in XTM, it's being analyzed. As soon as MT is applied, etc., the project is then editable. So we see now that the project has also even automatically finished. So this is a complete round trip with using MT, Systrend most likely, and we see also that the files have been generated. So for German and French, all the target files are already there, and they also disappear from the in folder in Drive. So they are then processed in different folder locations, and now in the out folder, we also see the German and the French files neatly named also by the connector. So we think this is great and allows you to sync files back and forth between G Drive and XTM Cloud very easily. So that's the G Drive integration. And let's see, we have some other news as well. We have also released other connectors actually. So we have a Viva Vault connector. You may have seen some marketing news on that topic as well. We try to be vocal about it. We've released a new Drupal connector and also connectors for HubSpot, GitHub, GitLab, Azure, and Bitbucket. In 13.10, so early this year, we also introduced new ICU syntax for JSON files, some improvements to custom MT. We switched our smart context feature, which is, I would say, our Rolls-Royce AI feature, if you want to call it that. Smart context, we switched that to GPT-4o Mini. And with Cloud 25.2, we did some UX improvements. We've also added a new UI language. So English United States is now available also, and some improved, let's say, localization of time zones, etc. Is available now in English for United States. And we also introduced some new languages. You'll find all of that in our release notes in Confluence. So if you go there, you can see all the details on which languages were added. And with that said, I'd like to head on over and do some demos with you next. So if you don't mind, we'll switch over to API first. So if you remember, we had the new release with custom fields in the create project method. So if we look at my body here in Postman, we see, for instance, that I can now specify custom field values inside the JSON request. And when we send this across, we see that we get a response that the project has been created. And if we log into XTM and check the project listing, you see, for instance, that if you want to switch on these custom field values in your project dashboard, they will see them here straight away. So these are the custom fields that I was able to specify during project creation. So all of these things, free text, drop downs, numbers only formats, Boolean operators, time formats, and multi-select, all custom field types are supported. So you can specify really any way you like, and you could update your projects or create your projects and have custom field values inside them straight away. There's a new method also to count the number of processed words, so the words that are deducted in a project. So here I'm running it for a specific job, checking in this project, in this job, how many words were deducted. And we see, okay, so this job had 361 words deducted. So also a nice thing from the API to be able to do that. And let's also have a look at deleting terms. So here we have the raw body where I can define which customer ID I want to delete terms under. You can also specify a creation date filter if you like. So here I'm not doing that, but I am filtering for entries created by a specific user. So if we go over to the term manager and look at these two customers. So I have main term base, I have test customer. Yeah? And if so I don't want to touch the main term base, for instance, when deleting. So let's filter for test customer only. Okay, and we have this one over here created by me, and we have Spider-Man over here created by Peter Parker. So two different authors of those terms. And let's run let's run the method. Success. So the terms are deleted, and let's search again. And we didn't touch Peter Parker's terms, so I only deleted my own terms, right? And they are now gone from the UI. And I did not touch the main term base, first of all, so I only edited terms under test customer. Okay. Next, let's have a quick look at language guard. So I'm going to open up a workbench session over here. Just need to load this on a different screen. Right, here we are. So we can check in real time when leaving the segment. You could check a single segment also if you like, and you'll see that we now get the inappropriate language check in the QA tab, obviously, and you will also get a suggestion from OpenAI saying how this should be treated, or how you could revise the sentence to make it sound less offensive. And yeah, you can run this in batch also against all your segments if you so like. And this is basically a setting inside your project. So if I go here to the general info, scroll down and check the, let's see, the QA, you can add this into your QA on different levels. So if I go here to my QA settings, we can check in the language section that you can switch it on over here. So that's the inappropriate language or language guard. We're going to replace this also with language guard. It still says inappropriate language. That is being switched out as part of the beta program for language guard. This is the new name. So you can toggle it off and on if you want to run it in your projects, if you're part of the Better program. Yeah, and now I've batch checked multiple segments, as you can see here, and I get the suggestions on how to improve the English here. Okay, let's go back to the project listing and have a look at some other projects or things that we can look at. So here's a project with a number of source files. So if I open up the workflow tab on this project, we have, first of all, our overview in the beta, on the beta page here, so to speak, where I can see or filter for projects of different statuses like that, and those are all clickable. So if I want to see the 3 jobs that are due in 3 business days, I would simply click here and proceed over here, and then I have a filtered list already. And as you can see, we now have the checkboxes here. So if I want to select a single job to manage, I would select it here. If I want to select multi-select like that, I would simply hit at the top left and multi-select the three projects, sorry, the 3 jobs. And you could also filter like so. And all parts of the file name are possible here. So if you want to filter for the extension, you could do that as well and filter for the files that have that extension, which is great. You can then batch select. So here I'm batch selecting 2 that fit my search criteria over here, and I can now edit the selected jobs and, for instance, swap out the assignee or set the due date. Let's take now, save, and you could start the jobs after saving if you so like. And also override current assignments and things like that. So you now have, thanks to these multi-selects, you have better capabilities of batch managing jobs in large projects. Okay, so yeah, I could do that for all the job files, obviously. So if I wanted to search across all the jobs, all the target languages, then I could multi-select across languages also and do my batch changes. Okay, that's the beta program for the workflow editor, or for the workflow tab. We also have the confidential customer. So I'm going to use 2 browsers now, so bear with me. Switch back and forth a little bit. So let's go to a different login screen and let's start with Peter Parker. Okay, so you can compare the view of a PM who does not see any confidential customers to someone who does. Or let's take limited PM. Oh, my mistake. There we go. Wrong account. All right, so here I'm sort of logged in as a typical project manager, and that is a power user, right? So a power user that has access to a lot of modules, has access to users and customers. So this isn't even a limited PM, it's a full project manager. Compare that to this person, this user. This is me as an admin, and I'm also the manager of confidential customers. That allows me, for instance, to add a customer and specify this customer as a confidential customer. That's part of my profile. I'm allowed to manage confidential customers. On the user level, if we take Mr. Anderson over here and check his access rights, since I am the manager of confidential customers, I could say I could give a linguist the opportunity to work for confidential customers. If that is not enabled, which it isn't, then he will only see all the customers that are non-confidential, right? That are not hidden from the view. If we compare this to Peter's view, so Peter Parker over here, he can also manage customers and users, but he cannot go in and give a linguist or give himself even access to confidential customers. It's blocked out. So even if he were to try, he could not. And the same applies to limited PMs. They could not go in and give themselves the right to manage confidential customers. Same goes for the terminology permissions. Impossible for Peter Parker to change this. Translation memory, likewise, and even concordance. So this means that certain data cannot even be searched in the concordance, or if I go to the TM or terminology manager, you won't see one of those confidential customers either, right? So they will be hidden from view, even though he's allowed to see multiple customers, right? So for instance, there's no confidential customer in this list, but if I go to my account and check the terminology tab, there is also a confidential customer here that does not appear on any other person's screen. And you can even be more granular than that if you so wish. I'm going to take another user and just show you the behavior for linguists and possibly restricted limited PMs. Right, so this user does indeed have access to the confidential customer and to the marketing customer that is non-confidential. This is a confidential customer, but the limited PM cannot, for instance, disable this. So you cannot unhide or make the confidential customer non-confidential. It's impossible for this user, right? It's also a nice thing. And the user does not have the possibility of doing concordance searches. So I've also limited the concordance options for this user. So if I look up, or let me show you the task. So here's the translation we're doing under the confidential customer. This is also using our anonymizer, by the way. So I've sort of masked certain values in the file in order to hide that as well from view. So we see then that this is a masked date, and down here the ID number is also masked, cannot be viewed, right? So even though I'm allowed to provide the translations here, I can be restricted in terms of what I see in the matches tab. I can be restricted in what I'm allowed to do in the concordance tab. For instance, Peter Mueller is already in the translation memory here, but it is not possible for me to retrieve that data from the concordance. So, the TM contents are completely hidden for this user. So if I go to concordance and try to find that, so it's English to German, I think, no, or German to English, excuse me. Could do both. I don't get any hits in the concordance. If you go over to my profile where I'm allowed to search across confidential customers, we'll see that first I can find it in the list, right? I think it was English to, no, it was German to English. Right, so I get the hit. So the translation, the translation is stored in the translation memory, obviously under the confidential customer, no problem there. But the access to the searches can be completely restricted. So only the people that are allowed to see confidential content can actually do so. So I would say that the confidential customer program has advanced very, very far by now. We're in the sort of the final phases of completing it. And yeah, exciting times. And this will be made generally available also later on. You will find that if we go over to users here in the LSPs, we also, since I am a user is allowed to specify access to confidential customers, I could also give it to an LSP. So this LSP is allowed to get work assigned from the confidential customer. And same down here, I can specify specific terminology views for confidential customers, and that can be limited to language combinations, etc. Okay. So I hope this helps and gives you an impression of what was in the latest releases. Let me just check my notes, see if I've forgotten anything. We didn't look at the COS 2.0 today, but I hope you got an impression from the slide at least. And you can also see over here that we have the possibility of specifying new rate cards also for LSPs now. So if you want to do COS 2.0 calculations with LSPs, you can. And if I can open it up briefly and just show you some of the things that we've done. We've harmonized a lot of things, especially so that you don't have to do any horizontal scrolling. Everything is just vertical now. And simple ways of copying configuration to other steps and simplification in the error messages that are being displayed. This program will continue for quite a bit actually. So the beta program is not finished for a while still. It's going to continue the entire year. So there's still an opportunity to hop on the program if you so wish. So yeah, back to you, Sarah. Maybe we can check the questions box, or if there's anything else you want to cover first, go right ahead.
Yeah, I think we want to do the polling next, but before that, maybe a little commercial break with some of the latest news that just came fresh off the press, right? So you might have received a notification in the email, but XTM has announced today that they recently acquired TXTO Media. What is that? It's an AI-powered video automation company that makes it easy to create and localize training, how-to videos at scale. So with TXTO Media now part of the XTM family, we can offer for the first time a true end-to-end solution, helping you manage the entire content journey from video creation all the way to localization and publishing. So we know that video content is in high demand. If you're curious to see how it works, just reach out to your customer success manager for a personalized walkthrough. So just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of that. And then we'll go right into the polling. Once again, and let me just launch that for a second, for a quick moment. If there's anything that you've heard about from the presentation today that you'd like to learn more about, please do so. Please do indicate that in this poll that I'm just going to launch right now. I'll give you guys a moment to answer the poll before we go right into the questions.
Pretty even spread.
Mm-hmm. Going to give a couple more seconds. All right, counting down from 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, I'm going to end the poll. And I guess what I can do is, do I share the results? Maybe not. Andreas, what did you just share in the chat box?
Oh, I saw some questions. Well, I also saw that in the poll, the API was in the lead, I think. So I decided to look up some new resources that we have. First of all, I think it's advisable to always check the revision history in the API documentation. So you go to your API endpoint, which remember is different for each server. And at the very bottom, you scroll down to the very bottom and check the revision history. This is the official place where new endpoints are described, etc. So you can see if parameters have been added to certain methods, or if something has been introduced that was completely new, right? So these are the completely new methods in 25.2, and here's 13.10. So that's number one, I would say. The second place you can check is always the official release notes. This is publicly available and hosted in Confluence. So I shared that link in the messages as well. And that's basically what we've covered today, this page and this page. And last but not least, and I think for people who are getting started with the API, this is really useful. Our tech writers just released this, and our support agents help with this as well. And it's basically sort of how-to articles on how to get started with the API. And I was recently in POC with a client, and they were like, they scheduled 5 meeting calls, let's say, for API questions. So 5 meetings they booked with me. I gave them these links, and then they canceled all the meetings. They said like, oh, this is perfect. We have everything that we need. So yeah, it saves time, and it explains how to get up to speed with the API.
Okay. I see that you've already started to address some of the questions. Do you think you should also share that with the rest of the team?
Yeah,
Some
so
of the responses.
yeah, I got questions from Anna and Stina, so thank you very much for posting those. And I'll get back to you separately on both. They both relate to roadmap, so I have to see what I can share and how definite those things are. It's always best to run that via the product team. I'm in the solutions team, so I have to liaise with them and get back to you.
Okay. If anyone else has any further questions, please do go to, it seems like no one's putting anything in the chat box. I don't know if anyone has issues with sending things over to the chat box, but if so, please do go to the questions tab and submit any other questions while we have a couple more minutes left before the end of the session. If everyone's good, then okay. Yeah. Someone
We
said
can wrap
thank
it up.
you. Yeah. Okay. Sounds like we can wrap it up. So again, thanks so much for joining us today. We hope you found the walkthrough of our latest releases helpful and that you're walking away with new ideas on how to get even more out of XTM Cloud. So a big thank you to Andreas for a great demo and to all of you for your questions and engagement. It's always great to see what's on top of mind for our users. Again, if you're interested in diving deeper into anything we've covered today, don't forget to reach out to your customer success manager. And of course, we'd love to see you at the next Feature Spotlight webinar. For now, we'll be sharing this recording shortly, so keep an eye on your inbox. Until next time, take care, and thanks again for being with us today. All right. Bye,
Bye-bye.
guys.